Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello, it's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 174 of the Cognitive Podcast. And I am broadcasting here from the Ranch of Love on Sunday, March 17th. Happy St. David's Day. I'm Welsh. No, happy St. Patrick's Day. Sunday at 4:11 p.m. Let's see. All the good things we have to say. Well, your comments are always welcome. Please comment on the blog at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com. Or you could go to our group on Ravelry, which is creatively called Cognitive, I think, or Cognitive Podcast. Just don't forget the K in knit. In the meantime, in the warm thanks department, did I point out to you that our own Chris On noticed that I had substituted in the old theme song for Cognitive, the old orchestration, in the beginning part of podcast. The end is still the newer version, but the old is included in the very beginning again. Thank you for catching that, our own beautiful Christina. And speaking of the warm thanks department, I'd like to thank the author, Lynn Messina, whose books I've been touting. No, she's not looking at my podcast notes or noticing this or noticing my podcast, but she did graciously send me a very charming email this week because I sent her a note on her website. I'm trying to think the contact part of her website, just saying, I really enjoy your books. And she sent me a very gracious email back. That made my day. Meanwhile, the Cognitive Fiber Retreat, number 10. It's 6 months away. Glad I'm sitting down. 6 months and about a week at this point. The first link in the show notes for information for CFR 10 is right there at the top under the Warm Thanks department. And it will take you to the info thread on Ravelry. It is a simply gorgeous day outside as I record this. It is 63 degrees. The sun is shining and the clouds are very, very high. It's just gorgeous as I look out my study window and over the valley. Just had to tell you that. And meanwhile, I'll tell you what is on my hooks and needles. Well, it's a good week for finishing. First off, I just sat down and really hammered out the second sock on the Stash Dive 1 socks. And there's a lovely picture of them both on my cute little leggies. And you can see the color gradations. It's a gorgeous yarn by Yawol or Jawol or whatever, Javol, whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure how the owners of the company call this. I'm not sure if they're trying to do it in German or English or what. It's very, very beautiful yarn. This is a nylon wool blend. That leads to a kind of fuzzy look. They're just beautiful socks. I have to tell you, I put them on and all day long. I was wearing them on the weekend. People were looking at my feet and going, wow, those are pretty socks. Just amazing stuff. The colorway is called Sedona, and that's where I bought it. I actually wasn't in Sedona. I was in Phoenix. I think I bought it in Mesa. And I drove away from Phoenix where I was going to an Erickson Foundation hypnotherapy training. It was great. It's great fun every time I go out there anyway, although that drive on the 10 can be a bit brutal on the eyes going through Arizona. Nothing but glowing landscape and desert everywhere. But I must say, good yarn shop. Thank you out there in the middle of the desert. There's a yarn shop. You just have to love that. As if that is not exciting enough, I finished the Love Hex Cardi. That is my first hexagon cardigan. If you crochet, you know that the hex cardis are kind of a fad right now. Crocheting is a fad. Crocheting is very in, which is really a nice thing to be able to say. few years back, 10 or so years, it was knitting. Knitting was the new yoga and all that. And I'm glad that knitting is established, but I'm really glad to see crocheting get some love. And as happens at a moment like that, you tend to get better patterns, better designs out there. Crocheting is very fast compared to knitting. As one friend said to me this week, the difference between knitting and crocheting is half the time and 3 times the yarn. Not always. More like 2 times the yarn, I would say, typically. But the point is, it does take a lot of yarn. I don't even know if it's 2 times. It really depends heavily on the pattern you're using. But it's very, very fast. Now, the hexagon sweater, it went like this. I made these 2 big hexagons, and the basic pattern was double crochet 3, chain 1. And it alternates. So you double crochet all 3 into one chain 1 stitch from the previous row. And then your chain 1s will be above and below the cluster stitches in the rows before and after. Extremely easy. Extremely easy. I did not sit down and really work out the logic of the hexagon. Most of the time you see crochet stitches done in squares. But the hexagon gives you this ripple. It doesn't lie flat, which confuses a lot of people based on the 2 Facebook groups for hexagon sweaters that I'm in. But it's not supposed to lie flat. It's not going to be an even tension. And the reason is you take corner number 3 and fold it to touch corner number 6, and what you get is this L shape with the center of the hex right under your armpit. And so when you put 2 of these together, like if you seam the side of this together, you get a jacket. Basically each L is a sleeve and the side. And so you stitch together the top, and that's the top of the arm. And then you stitch down the back, and you get a jacket. I mean, this is one of the easiest jackets you could make. And it's very cute and sort of fashion forward, but I'm not into asymmetrical or boxy cardigans and all that. I like good old-fashioned, comfy-looking cardies. So I made mine. I used the campfire cardigan pattern, which you can get on Ravelry. All of the patterns from this designer's website are $6, whether it's a hat or a scarf or a whole cardigan. But they have some really, really basic crochet. And if you want the equivalent of tin can knits in crochet, it's these people, the Make and Do crew. It's the same thing. Tin Can Knits is famous for publishing a book for free of basic sweater, basic socks, basic mitts, etc. And Make and Do crew is doing that for crochet. All their patterns are actually free if you go to Make and Do crew's website. Unfortunately, they're so populated with ads that just keep popping in and out. It is very easy to just go buy the pattern for $6, frankly. And they just have a really good set of fundamentals. So I did the Make and Do crew campfire cardigan. What I really did was I used it for the hexagon patterns and to figure out how it gets stitched together and folded and all that. And so I made the 2 hexagons. I seamed them down the top of each arm. Then I seamed the back seam together, and then I had a jacket. I used only 3 colors. The campfire cardigan, I don't remember how many colors it has, but it has a pattern like do 2 rows in color A, 4 rows in color B, whatever. I didn't do that. I just went ABC, ABC, ABC. A was a claret red, B was a pink, C was a white that I already had in my stash. So there you go. I was just using up stash. That's all. Bought those other skeins. Okay, now the real key here, I'm not going to go into the yardages. You have to go look on the pattern, was I went to Joann Fabrics and I just bought what I thought was enough of every color, basically a pound of everything. Boy, have I got a lot of leftover yarns, but it does feel good to say the red, I did use a serious amount of that, probably easily 3/4 of that pound. But the other colors, I'm going to have a lot of leftovers, but that's okay because they already have some good uses floating around in my head. If you get the yarn from Joann's in January, this sweater would cost you somewhere between $12 and $20. You can't beat that. And it's just a cardigan. If you do it in a granny square pattern with clusters, it's going to be kind of breezy. So I was wearing it outside today in the 60-degree weather, and it's just perfect for it. I'm also debating if I want to put toggle buttons on it, but right now I consider it finished. I will think about it as I use it. I made the jacket first, did the top of the sleeves and the back. And then I added rows down the back. And in the original pattern, even though she's using a bigger hook than I use and worsted weight yarn, she had to add a lot more rows than I had to on both the sleeves and the body. I got a much bigger gauge. I was using an I hook. I think she's using like an L hook. Really impressed by this. So, okay. Was it an I? No, I was using a K on the rows and then an I on the ribbing, I believe is how it went. Okay, but she used much bigger hooks than me. And I'm trying to think, was I? No, I was using a K and she was using an L. So my gauge just came out a lot looser and bigger, and I loved it. Worked out perfectly to the point where I think if I ever make another one of these, I'm going to use DK weight and, a smaller hook, and I think I'll probably come out the same. But it didn't take a lot of rows to get this down to a length I liked. And then I looked at the sleeves, and I decided to put them off till the end. But again, she adds something like 15 or 16 extra rows on the sleeves. I think in the end, I added 12 to make them slightly overlong because the campfire cardigan has just bell sleeves. It just ends with the rather unfinished looking, to me, sleeves. And I looked at the whole thing and said, that cardigan needs ribbing. It looks okay without the ribbing, but I think the ribbing could just really bring it together. So, okay, I decided not to finish the sleeves right away. I will say, too, she tapers the sleeves every 3 rows. That didn't work for me. I would say you have to taper them, if not every row, every other row. And in the end, they were still big enough that I did a row of single crochet around the edge in the color for the ribbing, just to do a few more decreases quietly at that sleeve edge before I put on the ribbing. So, your mileage may vary, but those were a few of my tricks. Before I went on to the sleeves, I did the ribbing on the body, and I had to experiment a bit. I ended up doing single crochet ribbing, which is mind-blowingly easy. Basically, every row is single crochet through the back loop of the stitch, and it makes a rib pattern, and it works very, very nicely. So I did a single crochet rib. I think I chained 11 to get 9 stitches, and did that all the way around the bottom, and then I started at the bottom of the front on one side. My guess is it's on the right side. And I just went all the way up and around the neck and down the other side. So that was the body ribbing. That took a weekend. That was probably the single most time-consuming thing I did. That was probably the most time-consuming part of all this, was just doing all that rib, to be honest. But ribbing does go relatively quickly. And after I had the rib on, and I really liked it. Now, I thought the neckline with rib, should I have made it in a slightly longer rib? No regrets, but you could. I've seen people do that to do a deeper shawl collar type thing. I felt like if I had too much ribbing, I was just going to have all this kind of flopping in the front, and I didn't want to go there. I just wanted a neat edging without a big rib, although I do like shawl collars. This wasn't the one I was going to do it on because I had so many other things in mind. So I went back to the sleeves, added length, tapered the sleeves. Then I did an experimental ribbing cuff. It was too short. It was the chain 11 to make 9 stitches. And I also didn't like the way that single crochet around the edge had worked. So I took that all out and replaced it with, it was chain 20 for the ribbing to make 18, and that worked out really nicely. I got these really nice fold-over cuffs. And then I spent, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, something like that, getting rid of all the ends. In other words, you have to keep changing color. There's ends galore on this baby. And you can go onto Facebook, and there are several groups. Just search hexagon, and you'll see several groups for making hexagon crocheted sweaters. So there's a lot of groups out there that will help you with this. Could you do this in knitting? Sure you could. I don't want to even go there, but it's very, very doable. I just think you'd have to work to get that hexagon worked out, but there's no reason you can't knit a hexagon, I would imagine. I'm just not going there right now. This thing took me about a month, and I got really absorbed in it. It was fun. It was interesting. It was highly inexpensive. It's very effective. I probably will at some point make one of these in wool because I've got a ton of blue wool, both in DK and worsted. So this may be my DK experiment in wool. The reason I don't make cardies in wool is I want to have them lying all over the place so I can just grab one and go outdoors. And around here, that's begging for a moth problem. But I think if I knew exactly what I was doing, if I didn't have to experiment at so many different steps in this, if I felt very comfortable with it, this would probably be a long weekend to make one of these, maybe a week. But the month was because I would put it down, I would get tired of it and exhausted from the decision making and the experimenting. I ripped out in a few places, no regrets. Ripping out in crochet is mindlessly easy. It's not at all like it is in knitting. It's not at all hard. So I had to do and redo a few times to really get what I wanted. And I got what I wanted. So this is the campfire cardigan with my own emendations, and I'm calling it the Love Hex cardigan. By the way, everybody keeps saying what a great Valentine's Day sweater. I started it after Valentine's Day. I'm just not right in the head. Meanwhile, in progress, well, the stash toss now is 11 skeins in versus 33 out since the first of the year. I'm pretty pleased with that. The fifth CFR 23 sock yarn cowl, it's at about 5 or 5.5 inches out of 8 inches. It's sitting on my desk, slowly progressing when I have a minute between patients. Of course, since I finished socks, I said, well, here's what I'm not going to do, start another pair of socks. So I did. I thought I'll make some scrap socks. I went into my scraps bag because ever since CFR 23, I've been reducing all my small scraps. And I've really almost completely exhausted my stockpile of small bits and pieces of scraps from socks I've made. But I have some big hunks left that could definitely be stripes on some new Franken socks. And that's what I thought I would do. I have a bag of those, the bigger chunks that are still usable to make parts of socks before I throw them into the make a sock cowl scrap pile. And from CFR 23, you may remember the beautiful yarn samples, the mini skeins, sent to us by Cutiful Yarns, run by our own Cutiful Christina down in Australia. And I managed to pick up lots of those minis. When we were doing trades, I went for a bunch of them. Well, happily for me, I got 2 mini skeins of Lydia's Pink. And these were very generously sized mini skeins. I believe these are 25 grams. That's a lot of yarn. And the Lydia's Pink is a variation of pink, but it leans towards the hot end of the pink spectrum. I mean, it's a little bit hotter than Barbie pink. And with Lydia's Pink, you also have purple mixed in. And just there's a breath of white in it that I think is just more random variations from painting the yarn. But I like it. There's just this little really speck of white here and there, and it just kind of gives it a little pop. Anyway, I looked at the Lydia's Pink, and I said, come to me, my darling. Well, anyway, Lydia's Pink is wonderful. And I started making a sock, and as you can see in the picture, I got through 2 inches, and I have a generous amount left of that first mini skein. And I was going to just stop and stripe it, and I did. I broke the yarn and started looking for a stripe and then said, I don't want to stop. I love this. And so I'm just going for broke with the Lydia's Pink. We'll see how far we get down the leg before I have to add stripes of other things. Definitely the insteps will be a different color, but I am just loving it. I have 2 skeins of this, well, 2 mini skeins. So I'm thinking I'm pretty much going to get 2 legs out of this. This looks like it's got a really good chance of making it all the way down the leg to where I insert the waist yarn for the Afterthought heel. So these are probably going to be primarily beautiful pink socks. And I don't really feel a need to do them as blueberry waffles or anything else. I think the color just glows. Glows. I think you can see the color from space. I just love this. I just love this. Vestuary 24. Remember that? Yeah. I know I should be finished it by now, and yet I'm not. Well, it's a little tedious with all this other excitement going on, and I really got a lot of finish-itis this week. So I have pulled Vestuary 24 back into my line of vision. And really, the whole bottom part is done. I believe I'm up to the armpits. I need to measure it. If I'm not, I'm maybe 3 rows. From this point, it usually goes pretty quickly. I just bogged down in doing the knitting in the round bottom of this. So hopefully I'm going to, divide the stitches, put half of them on waste yarn, and then just do the back. I will get started on that, then you do the front. Very easy to do, then you do the ribbing. So hopefully I'll get back on that track. If I don't get myself back onto it this weekend, I will probably spend next weekend really getting myself unconfused and organized about it. And then there's the Deep Stash Dive 2 socks. These are in the lime and violet colorway, electric slide. And I'm on where am I on that actually? I'm on the second sock. And I'm doing 1 4-row repeat every day at a minimum. This is one of those deals, when you do blueberry waffles, this is one of the things that makes them really lovable as socks. Once you get the pattern, which takes the brains of, a chicken to remember, 2 rows of stockinette followed by 2 rows of knit 2, purl 2. Once you do that, that 4-row repeat can be whipped out really quickly. You can whiz through that in like 10 minutes at the most. So every day you just kind of stop and do a repeat. You don't pay much attention to blueberry waffle socks. They have a way of just growing in the background. So that's where that one is. I'm just kind of carrying it around with me, doing a repeat. We are slightly more than halfway down the leg to the heel, but I'm not putting in a lot of work on those. Dizzy Blondes, my spinning wheel is even here at my feet, and I'm hoping to get on to more of that. But when the weather warms up, I'm pretty sure I'm going to spin this summer. I still have some stash I want to get through. I'm not buying new fluff for the stash. Right now, I think I'm so overloaded with yarns. I think I'm probably going to transition out of spinning gradually based on my age. Now, what does that really mean? Look, I've got e-spinners. I've got like an electric eel wheel. I've got the Nano. I've got an Ashford e-spinner. I got plenty of e-spinners. If I want to spin, I can spin. But I do believe I'm going to transition out of my wheels and just downsize on that, like I'm downsizing on the yarn in my fantasies. 11 skeins this year. Okay, never mind. Let's get on to a strategy, shall we? Well, we've been thinking about overthinking. I've been thinking too much about overthinking now. And the strategy today is when you're dealing with overthinking. This is based on a Japanese philosophy whose name I don't remember. But one of the things you're doing when you overthink is you're treating every idea, every memory, every problem as though you must solve it now. Now, this is in part because of the dopamine rush that we talked about a few weeks ago. All right, but let's get off the physiological level and just say you have this false cognition. I got to think about this. This has to be solved. First of all, the first false cognition is you believe you can solve things that you can't, like your friend getting a terminal illness or a painful memory or something like that. So a lot of the things you're overthinking are things that you can't solve anyway. But even the things that are problems in your day-to-day living, your kid is not doing well in school or, has a disability or something, those are things that, yes, you probably can remedy in the day-to-day, sure. But the reality is you have to do very few things in this very moment. There's very few problems that you have to solve right here, right now. Like maybe if your house is on fire, something like that. You're driving and the wheel falls off your car, God forbid. Okay, most things, most problems of daily life do not have to be solved in this moment. That even if this is a critical thing going on your job, you still don't need to solve it right now. You have time. But overthinking is this mindset of inaccurate cognition where you say, I've got to solve this right now. If I solve this right now, everything will be good. First of all, it might not. Secondly, you might not solve it. Like you might come to the conclusion it can't be solved and you're feeling tragic and frightened. But the idea is very few things have to be solved in this moment. So you need to work against your overthinking by reminding yourself that everything will change. That if you have a problem, it may improve over the next day or two. Something in the situation may change. And your inactivity may actually help that. That because you didn't move, because you stayed still and let the problem just kind of marinate in your head, some other solution becomes available. Somebody steps in to help you, whatever. But the other thing that you need to remember is where you were 1 year ago today. There's a very funny meme going around about, things are so much worse now. Think about where you were 4 years ago. And people start posting where they were, and it's terrible. They're in the store and there's no food. It's right in the middle of the quarantine and people are panicking and fear buying and all this. But it is good to look back and say, where was I a year ago? What were my problems like a year ago on this date? And this is why I used to keep diaries. It is mind-blowing to read my old diaries now and to think about how different my world was, how radically different my concerns were, all the good things that I was able to take for granted and I didn't even realize it. The important thing is everything you're going through will end, will pass, will develop, will go away. So when you're overthinking this problem and you're torturing yourself, you're damaging your health, you're damaging your mood over an issue that isn't even going to be relevant to you down the road. You're going to give up and stop caring about it. Everything changes. Moods change. Events change. Priorities change. And yes, your problems and crises change. So, what I would say is everything changes. If you're holding on to a single problem and you're just obsessing about that problem, it doesn't make sense. You're punishing yourself with what is a transient solution, a transient situation. Whatever you do about your current problems, it's all going to change drastically. So, when you're obsessively thinking, what we're really doing here is we're standing back to take the big picture and we're using some reality testing. And we're saying, is this problem worth this based on it's going to go away? It's going to be replaced by a whole different bunch of problems. By the way, I'm doing the Heroes Journal, as I keep telling you. And because I'm redoing the original Heroes Journal, I've reached the point where I'm seeing my postings for December, for 3 months ago. And it's mind-blowing how different my issues are. It's just mind-blowing. I've even developed in the way I use the journal. I do different things in the journal. It is really astonishing just in 3 months to see how much development there is. So in overthinking, one of the things you have to do is the kind of radical acceptance that all things change. And so if you are obsessing over a situation, a painful memory, a problem at work, or something you can't fix from your past, believe me, it's going to go away and you'll have a whole new set of concerns as time moves on. That is the way the world works. That's the way it's meant to be. So why are you overthinking? Why does it matter that you spend so much time on one issue? It's all going to move on. Okay. Oh, shoot. I'm at 25 minutes a day, still on the bike desk, and it's feeling really good. I've been doing it long enough that it just feels wonderful. So where am I now? 195 miles since late November, mid-November, but I did take off 2 weeks for COVID. I can't remember if it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then restarted it. but I didn't go back to the beginning of the chart. I was like 15 days into the chart when I got COVID. I think I took 3 days off and then went on to day 16 on the chart. I feel wonderful. I am really impressed with this. The most noticeable change is my energy level, but also, I wear a smartwatch and it reads my resting heart rate. Well, my resting heart rate before I started all this was usually like 71, 72 beats per minute. My resting heart rate now is 65 to 66 beats per minute. And that's consistent. And it is mind-blowing that this really was necessary. This is really making me feel great. In the fluffy books, I'm not really watching the Alexander the Great docudrama. I think I got 4 episodes in. And I like it. It's interesting. But again, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'd rather watch a Ken Burns-style documentary than watch the docudrama stuff. I always feel like they're putting in things that I'm not sure are necessarily accurate when they do the dramatic part. I am from a school of thought, deconstruction, and cultural materialism as a literary critic. And both these schools of thought start with this premise that we really don't understand the past because we did not live there. And our daily circumstances, our cultural environment, our surround, as it were, does influence the way we think, and we do not have those things in common with people in the times of Alexander the Great or Darius of Persia. So I'm not really going to understand how they think. I can look at historic facts that the Persians seem to treat women better, that they consult with their women as leaders, that sort of thing, in a way the Greeks don't. I can look at all those things. I simply cannot put myself in that place. And we have to do the best we can with that. So, when you do the docudramas and you do the dramatic part, that's why I feel so out of sorts. Like, we're assuming these are universal human feelings and behaviors. Yeah, maybe, but I don't think we know enough. Give me Ken Burns reading from original sources and talking to historians anytime. But I did watch the movie Damsel on Netflix. This is Millie Bobby Brown, who I like, and I think she's got the right impetus. She keeps trying to produce things on Netflix that she thinks of, I believe, as feminist or positive towards women. So they did the 2 Enola Holmes movies, and now we're doing Damsel. That's the good side. And, okay. The bad side is, number one, they keep getting men to write these screenplays. So there are no women scriptwriters in Hollywood, huh? But I'm having this problem with Millie Bobby Brown's productions. Why are these all being written by men? And that wouldn't bother me. I'm not as sexist as that probably sounds. But the reason it's bothering me is in the original Enola Holmes, as I have said before, they are a young woman being a young woman. As a woman myself, Enola's behaviors are understandable, predictable, and within the same physical limits and mindsets, Victorian mindsets in that case, that I recognize them. Okay, when you look at the Enola Holmes movies with Millie Bobby Brown, first of all, we bring in a handsome man to play her brother Sherlock. And it's kind of like his show now, that they're trying to redeem Sherlock. Sherlock's not particularly likable in the earlier books of Enola Holmes. But they keep trying to kind of redeem him. And it's like, no, that's a guy writing Sherlock Holmes. That a lot of female writers do not feel the need to redeem Holmes. Well, they're doing this again in Damsel. That what you get is, for this young woman to prove her worth, she has to go to these amazing physical extremes. She's got to be stronger and faster and, smarter. I don't mind. And, it's okay. It's very predictable from beginning to end. Once you get the gist of what we're doing here, I'm not going to give spoilers. You really go, okay, here's what has to happen. And it's trying to be feminist. The girls go to rescue the girls. Of course, the villain is a villainess. And it is an interesting reflection in that sense of the women who sell out to patriarchy, because there's definitely this movie talking about the damsel in distress, obviously the name, and the virgin sacrifice, the princess sacrifice, the holy sacrifice, that sort of thing. It's talking about those, and they're obviously patriarchal. Why you think women are throwaway objects, whereas you have to preserve the men. You know, we don't throw princes in. And, you know, there's a lot of good questioning of the patriarchy, and I like that. What I don't like is, I don't like these shows that glorify the woman who can be physically tough and physically violent as a means of solving all her problems. Damsel does a little better in that category. She is a thinking kind of heroine. But that's my objection, is I'd really like to see, you can hear my bias here, an educated, intelligent woman who just thinks her way through a problem and occasionally uses force, but mostly doesn't have to. However, having said that, I did enjoy Damsel. I'm just a little bit about it. And the other thing is there's a missed opportunity in the character of the dragon, who is a mother who's kind of like the Scarlet Witch in the last Doctor Strange movie. Just think that, and you'll know what the dragon is like. And there's a kind of redemption at the end. I think it would have been much more interesting if we had watched the scenes where the heroine and the dragon are talking it out. Something I really like, the brother scanner. Yes, it came. I love this thing. I am digitizing like crazy, at least 15 minutes a day. I'm going through all the paperwork on my desk and getting rid of it. Old journals, old patterns, old holiday cards that I want to keep, greeting cards. You name it, man. I'm scanning it. I finished getting through all my office records. That was 4 cartons, I believe. The last of that were the files I had, and they were quite random. And one of them was family history as written by my mother, a genogram that I did for my family back in my master's in marriage and family therapy, a letter from my sister where she put some of her research. I mean, it is amazing what you find, but it's even more amazing to get it off the floor and out of the file cabinets in my study. I have a lot more to go, but this scanner has become my friend. It's very reliable. It takes multiple pages. I think it was $120. You can see a picture of it there. It's on the floor between 2 big yarn bins, the pink bin that used to be the cardboard box of Doomy Doom Doom, and another bin. And you can see how tiny the thing is. And then you can see it. It's an action shot. It's opened up and ready to go. It plugs in directly to my PC through a USB connection. And that is for data and also for giving it power. I really like this thing. To say that this thing has made a change in my digital cleanup is a huge understatement. I told you last week we got past the point of emptying the computers and all the data I had in various backups and putting them on these 2 4T drives, one that is a copy of the other. Now I'm moving on to the paperwork around the house. And it really is astonishing to go ripping through it. I emptied half of the files out of my Remarkable just by doing this. It really is astonishing how well this is working. It makes me extremely happy. This project is up there with burning through the yarn in my study to try to buy more space instead of selling or throwing out. I'm actually using what I bought, what I kept, what I saved. I just love this. I'm going through old letters I have from friends back in the day and scanning them in. So the Brother Scanner, this is, I think it's the ADS 1200. I know the number is 1200. I'm not sure about the letters before it. This is really quite good. It is not Bluetooth. You have to pay more, but you can get Bluetooth connectivity. So you just plug it into a wall, Bluetooth it into your computer of choice and go. What this does do, it will take files. I believe it will put them on a thumb drive currently. It's got a thumb drive connection. I haven't really worked with that because to me it looks like it's telling you it will somehow scan to the thumb drive. I haven't tried it. because the manual is just awful. The manual is like a 2-page thing. I think I have to go online. I'm not worrying about it. My thumb drive materials are not my problem. But yeah, if I can scan to a thumb drive and plug in, it does come with the cable that connects it to an electric plug. I will do that too, probably at times if I can't work in my study for some reason. I mean, you can take this scanner in a over-the-shoulder bag and take a thumb drive, I would imagine, and do that. Just scan to that. Very good. The attached software is very good. I like everything about this. It was a great and a worthwhile buy, and I'm extremely, extremely happy with it. Put a lid on it. The tea tastings. Well, I am going through my old spare sample bags from Plum Deluxe, and I came on the Spice of Life black tea, which leads me to believe there's a herbal version of this. This thing comes very close to being chai. I really, really like it. Very, very strongly scented and flavored with both clove and cinnamon. And that's where you get the sort of sense of the chai, is that clove flavor. It's a very robust tea. It's a very pleasant tea. It's a nice, brisk morning tea. I really quite like it. You can see the ingredients: black teas, so some mix of black tea, cinnamon chips, clove, orange peel, and cinnamon essence. This one's good. This is a really nice one. I think this kind of fits in a lumpy way into that slot of like a black with citrus flavors, like a cinnamon spice tea, and also a chai. Either one, this will fit into those slots pretty well. It doesn't have the kind of depth of flavor of a serious Indian chai where you cook the spices with milk and tea on the stovetop. It doesn't quite rise to that, even if you add milk to it or cream to it. But it's extraordinary by itself. And I must say I really have quite liked it. On to the blather. Well, and exciting around here. I had to tussle with my doctor because I went into my chart and I realized my blood sugar levels are rising. They're in an area I don't want them to be in. I'm getting some symptoms of my diabetes, like tingling in my feet. Okay, so I looked at my weight, said, my weight's too high. So, okay, I called my doc and we talked about meds, because right now I don't usually take meds for my diabetes. I regulate it by diet, but there's a whole story here about a bad doctor who's not advising me. And I finally went through my chart myself and said, oh, Lord, this is getting out of control. So I really am doing a hard look. Now, much better than I was. I found this out on Monday, so you're hearing me 6 days later. But I've already had a lot of success. So I decided I need to get serious again about intermittent fasting. I need to change quite a few things. And so the short version is I'm actually already, before I knew this, doing a lot of things better, like the exercise on the bike desk. That's been lowering the heart rate. That's been going very nicely. Can't think. Oh, sleep. I've been really trying to regulate my sleep. I've been working on that with the Hero's Journal, getting myself from midnight bedtime, trying to work my way backwards very gradually to a 10 p.m. or 10:30 p.m. bedtime. So I'm working on all that. By the way, sleeping for too short a time, walking around exhausted all the time raises your blood sugar. That's why I'm working on the sleep. But anyway, I just decided to get hardcore about my fasting because one of the things I do is I eat too much. I have a thing about overfilling my stomach. So I'm always irpy, I'm always uncomfortable, having acid reflux stuff. Okay, so I realized that's one of the things I want to do. So I want to really lose weight, but I want to cut back on my eating volume. So I spent Monday through Friday fasting. That is, it was Sunday afternoon when I saw the chart. And I did a 24-hour fast, Sunday dinner to Monday dinner, and felt really good. Was shocked because it didn't bother me at all. When I fast, just so you know, I am drinking Ketorade. That is the electrolyte keto version of Gatorade. Nothing unhealthy, and the only sweetener is liquid stevia, 6 drops by the pint. So I've been drinking that, and I was drinking chicken broth, organic chicken bone broth. The reason I say organic chicken, way more flavorful than anything you're going to get from a regular chemically fed chicken. So I was doing that. Frankly, I didn't even notice I was fasting. I have to be honest. Not only was I not uncomfortable, I didn't even care. And I fasted. I decided that I get my best out of 48 hours. So I fasted again from Monday night's dinner to Wednesday night's dinner. If you fast, you go dinner to dinner. Why? Because when you eat dinner, if you finish dinner, say at 7 p.m., when you wake up in the morning, you're already on a 12-hour fast. So it's not really that big a deal to do 12 more hours. If you eat breakfast and then you try to fast till the next day's breakfast, you're probably going to be aching a bit by dinner time in that first 12 hours, and that may also disrupt your sleep. So that's why I got that, I think, from Jason Fung, MD. I fast dinner to dinner. It's the easiest way to manage a fast because you get through the first 12 hours without even noticing it. Okay, so I did Monday dinner to Wednesday dinner and had a nice dinner Wednesday. And then the boys weren't home Tuesday night. That's why it was so easy to do it. On Thursday, I believe I had one meal and I didn't think much about it. My husband made really nice salmon, but I couldn't eat a lot of it and I couldn't figure out why. Friday night, I got it. I did another 24 from Thursday dinner to Friday dinner. We went out to our favorite Mexican and I got a salad, which was very nice, with grilled chicken breast. I could not eat a whole grilled breast, and I could only eat very little of the salad. So I boxed all that up, and I thought, that's amazing. I'm just not hungry. And then I realized, with that much fasting in a 4-day period, my stomach volume shrank really significantly. And the real trick is the minute my brain says, you've had enough, to stop. My brain doesn't say that, I'll be honest. My brain said things like, do you think we might have had enough? Or maybe we could stop now? And I tend to ignore it. A little bit, look at that chicken breast, it's so tasty, blah, blah, blah. And the answer is now I stop. And it's very instinctive to stop. After all the fasting, you really can't eat. You're really going to cause yourself pain. So again, on Saturday, I went over to our favorite sushi place by myself just to have a quiet lunch. It was a poke bowl, all greens, and some nice toppings, and a heap of salmon sashimi. I ate the sashimi. I couldn't eat anything else. It's like a handful, and I just couldn't eat anything else. So I put the salad in a box and took it home. All right, and today, the upshot is today I've had the leftovers of the 2 salads and those pieces, a few bits of grilled chicken that were on the top. I'm not hungry, and I'm really surprised. The other effect, I weighed myself Monday morning, and usually I weigh myself on Friday mornings, but I said, well, I'll get a baseline, so I'll weigh myself on Friday, 4 days from now and see if anything worked. Yeah, I lost 3.7 pounds in 4 days, and I just can't tell you how much better I feel, and how much I feel optimistic. My symptoms are reducing drastically. They're very, very quickly reduced. So I can't tell you, I'm feeling so much better. I have occasional numbness in the tops of my feet. I didn't realize I was having a lot of joint pain. That completely left in those first 4 days. And, when it goes away, you notice it. What I do want you to know is, those of you who have diabetes, or if you're worried about getting it, the symptoms are very subtle. And that's been my problem, that when I got the rude shock when I saw where my sugar was, it wasn't too bad. In fact, actually, when I looked it up, it said, oh, this represents well-controlled diabetes. Yeah, but before, the number I had used to represent pre-diabetes, so I'm going back there. And I know it's the weight. When you take the weight off, everything improves. Already, my joints feel better. I have way more energy. At this point, I've probably lost like 5 pounds, maybe 6. I cannot tell you how much better I feel. And yeah, I also thought the fasting is great. While you're working, you don't notice fasting as long as you've got a good bone broth and electrolytes. And by that, to me, it's an electrolyte drink. I also decided I'm just getting rid of all the processed sugar substitutes for a while. That was interesting. First thing I noticed was after the 48-hour fast, by Wednesday evening, on Thursday morning, I had a cup of tea with no sugar in it. Tasted great. I thought, I don't get it. Usually I think tea tastes bitter or ashy or strange. Tasted absolutely great. Now I am using high quality tea. This is Plum Deluxe. Tastes great. I haven't put sugar in. I didn't have any artificial sweetener at our Mexican dinner. I usually have a Diet Coke just to celebrate. I didn't. I just had water. Didn't miss it and slept better. I did have a Diet Coke yesterday. Messed up my sleep last night. I had it at lunch. I gagged on it. It was way too sweet. I literally thought they'd given me a regular Coke. And then I realized, no, it has the diet flavor. So, no. And I'm really happy about that. I used to treat Diet Coke. I made myself learn to drink it when I went diabetic with this sense that I need it. But now that I've found the really good sparkling waters at Trader Joe's, I don't really think I need Diet Coke. So it's pretty happy that I seem to be dumping a lot of stuff that I wanted to get out of my diet anyway, like the artificial sweeteners. I am using stevia. I will use Swerve if I bake or something. But really my rule of thumb right now is I'm fasting through the weekdays, probably the 24-hour fast, dinner to dinner. So I'm going to hopefully eat dinner at night. And I don't know if I'm going to necessarily do a 48-hour fast every week. But I have to tell you, I just feel so much better. I do want to warn you, if you fast properly, the next day after you stop fasting, typically in my experience, it's a colon cleanse. You're going to empty everything. And that feels really good too, which surprised me. That you realize humans do store impurities in their colon, all this. I don't want to get graphic. And that part of the fast feels really good. But I do want to eat on the weekends. So, I had lunch and dinner yesterday, and I ate the leftover salads with like a strip or two from the chicken breast. And the True Love is making dinner tonight. I forget what he's making. But anyway, that's all really nice. I'm very content with that. And then tomorrow I go back. But the thing I am doing, I'm really limiting portion size. I like my stomach this small. And it makes me think this is probably one of the problems that led to the higher sugar and the weight gain. Well, the weight gain is the higher sugar, but the weight gain is, probably coming out of this, that I still eat too much in volume. Even with limited carbs. By limited carbs, I don't eat flour, sugar, rice, potatoes, beans, root vegetables. But you can still get enough carbs from other food to have too many carbs. But it's resulted in a slow creeping weight gain that has taken years. And so, again, I just want to get back down to a good weight that I like. And then I'll negotiate how I want my diet to be. But I do know this smaller stomach size, I really want this to be for life because it just feels great. Okay, so, do not despair. Yes, the keto thing, I am still keto. It is working for me. The digital cleaning, I think I was telling you, I'm doing 15 minutes a day, and that's been going really well. The house projects, yes, every day. I make those 2.5-inch strips from my leftover fabrics. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel here. I just have a small heap of leftovers. I really wonder a week from now I may be finished with that project. Boy, that would be great. After that, the sewing projects, probably. I have a pile of fabrics. Not really. I think I have 3 skirt lengths on my love seat as I sit here. So hopefully they will get made into something. And I'm thinking 2 of the 13 seam skirts, skirts with waistbands and 1 pocket or 2 pockets. And then at least 1 circle skirt. I think I've got enough. I've got 1 fabric that I don't have a full circle skirt in that colorway. So, and after that, they will be reduced to 2.5-inch strips. And after that, we're probably going to start doing strip quilting projects. There's a bunch of things. I wouldn't mind making a purse, maybe a few pillows, etc. And then an actual log cabin. So that's all nice to dream about. The walkway, I'm not really doing much on. We still have to whop in about, I can say that, I'm Italian, about 20 more pegs, and we have, I think, 11 more lights, solar lights that need to go in. That doesn't take a long time. I keep telling myself I want my son to help me. We did just have rain. We're having good rain this year. It's not cold, but it's certainly raining well. There is a lovely picture of me repairing the Ring video doorbell. We got our new Ring because the old one, the battery just wasn't taking a charge anymore. I finally realized. So we got the new Ring, and I installed it this week. I have to tell you, the original Ring was so well set up. They gave you everything you needed in the box. The new Ring, same type of Ring, did not give you everything you need. They said they did, and I had all the wrong parts in the box except for the actual ring. It was really remarkable. The screws that were supposed to screw it into the wall are not there, but I have my screws from the old ring. So fortunately, I was able to use the screwdriver from the old ring and parts from the old ring and get the new ring installed. So we are back online with our ring, which means it's time to go hang the ring camera on the garage. Pup date, not much happening there. We did get my husband's car. Finally, it's all repaired, which means I have my own car, which means I can get back on the stick and get poor Captain, who's way overdue for her shots, back to the vet to get those. And the green fingers, I'm just mulching, and we are overrun with weeds. Most of the plants I installed last year, I don't know if they're coming back. They are supposed to be perennials. We'll have to see how that goes. Anyway, underneath all that, there is the list of the community resources, links to different threads on the Ravelry group that will help you out with your projects, help you get supplies. On the calendar, you can see Yarnopoly and Second Saturday Stitchers. They are on Facebook. They don't have websites. They have meetups on the second Saturday of each month, but this week, Yarnopoly has announced they're going to go to twice a month, which I think is charming. We had a big group there yesterday. They're going to go to twice a month, and I will catch that up in the show notes as I get more adjusted to it. I haven't seen Second Saturday Stitchers, mainly because they start earlier in the day. I like afternoon stitching, which is why Yarnopoly attracts me. Also, the Sit and Stitch group, it is 9 a.m. too, those crazy people. Usually, but not always, on the second and fourth Saturday of the month at the Joanne Darcy Library in Canyon Country here in the Santa Clarita Valley. And also I want to point out, if you're in this valley, the Santa Clarita Valley Free Craft Exchange, also a group on Facebook. It is exactly what it says. They're meeting, I think, on the 24th of March this month at 9 a.m. up at Bouquet Canyon Park. Basically, this is a great group to know if you live or work in the Santa Clarita Valley. You can bring your unwanted craft supplies, and now they take almost anything. I got rid of a lot of business supplies that I won't be using, like 3-ring binders. You just take them up there, put them on a table, or sometimes we can do it right out of the trunks of our cars, and people come by and pick up what they need. This is a great resource. I've gotten yarn there. I've given away yarns. I've given away fabrics I won't be using. I gave away a lot of business supplies. This was really helpful in emptying the garage in Project G. If you don't have a group like this in your area, you should consider starting one. It's an amazing thing. You get a meeting place and you have people just do it out of the trunks of their cars. Lift your trunk and show all the stuff you have to give away. So I decided to stick that into the show notes in the calendar. CFR 10, the Cognitive Fiber Retreat number 10. As I mentioned previously, it will be on September 28th, which is a Saturday, at the Courtyard by Marriott in Valencia. And again, there's a second link. There's one right up under the very top, under the warm thanks. But at the bottom on the calendar, I also have a link, the information link. It is 6 months away, gang. So start thinking about it. Romeo will be December 21st to January 1st. I have put in a request for the week that includes Christmas. I think Christmas is on a Wednesday, and so I do believe I will be working the Monday and Tuesday before New Year's Day. We'll have to see. Our facility was hit by the mass hacking of the healthcare billing that's hit the U.S., so vacations and all that are a little bit iffy. But our jobs aren't threatened. Meanwhile, you can see phenomenal photos in the show notes. We had this amazing, blazing sunset Friday night. We literally pulled the car over and started taking pictures. And then we took them again when we got home to the farm. So at the top of the show notes, there's my husband walking across the front of our yard with this blazing sunset. Behind him at the bottom, we've got the view from the side of the road. Minerva gets the last word. Minerva, I couldn't help it. There was a great meme with a cat sitting on the deck of an aircraft carrier, a giant cat, and it's knocking airplanes off the aircraft carrier. And it says why cats aren't allowed on aircraft carriers. But that whole sentiment is Minerva. She knocks things over all the time. When she gets angry at me, she will get on my desk and knock things off. If she wants me to cuddle her in bed, which she will do for, about a minute and a half, and then she overheats, and I don't do it, she gets up on the dressers and knocks things off. Oh my gosh. So Minerva wants you to know, if things don't go your way, just knock a few things over to get attention. But also remember, after you've done it, try to look very cute and innocent. So there is a picture of her curled up, sleepy, looking cute and innocent in the captain's chair. So there we go. Quite a lot. I didn't think this would run that long. Thank you for your patience. But I hope everybody is remembering that we are communal animals. When we work for the community, we are working for our individual selves. We benefit when the whole community does well. Having said that, please, everybody, remember, stay safe, take care of each other, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.